We see payroll departments and they're very insular. And that's not always a good thing. And that's partly responsible for why I think the payroll sector feels that, do we fit in HR? Do we fit in finance? You don't fit in either. You are your own thing, and you should be your own thing. So if we can impart these, communication skills, confidence skills, leadership, and those sorts of things, then it starts to give, a much stronger, I suppose, career path for future development for payrollers, because it's like, actually, we can do this and we can do that. I think if anything, that it's more likely that payroll would take over some of the HR side of things rather than, the other way around.
Welcome to the Payroll Podcast with your host, Nick Day. Find out what it takes to truly discover what it takes to elevate your career within payroll as we meet with the industry leaders who are shaping the industry for tomorrow.
Hello and welcome to the Payroll Podcast. Today I'm joined by Mark Bremner, founder of MBKB Training and Rockstar Payroll, and the UK's largest payroll apprenticeship provider. Now, Mark is an experienced entrepreneur, leadership trainer, problem solver, speaker, and good friend of mine, and he's an individual who possesses inspiring and effective leadership skills, which he's put to good use to enable him to create a number of outstanding businesses. This is across multiple sectors, not just payroll. They've included award-winning training and business support companies, international brand management businesses, and even a top 10 rock chart hit. Mark has become an inspiring leadership presenter and business consultant who now provides businesses and individuals with real-life examples and thought-provoking developments to enhance performance. In addition to the training and payroll apprenticeship services provided by MBKB, Mark is now also delivering one-to-one support, seminars, and private consultancies. And so I thought now was the perfect time to bring him onto the show to have a chat about how he sees the world of payroll and also to discover the opportunities he thinks the industry will offer in the future. Sit back, relax, and let's get started. Now, obviously, Mark, you're a leading training provider. You've become the leading payroll apprentice training provider. Tell us a little bit more about your journey and about how you're finding the world of payroll.
Okay, thanks, Nick. Really good to join you today. Appreciate the opportunity to have a chat. So, yeah, it's been great. Payroll is our new home, I think, and our spiritual home. We've searched for a while, I think, to find out where exactly we fit. So I've been in and around training for a long time. We were working with multiple local authorities, and we got asked by a couple of those if we were looking at the payroll apprenticeship as it was being developed in 2018. They were aware that we'd got a payroll tutor that already worked with us because we'd done some business admin stuff and tailored it around a payroll position. So it was an easy transition for us. And I had a chat. I got introduced actually to Ian Holloway, who's great, rock star for the industry. And he very kindly shared with us some of the aspirations of what the payroll administrator was going to look like. And we were able to start building a plan and developing it. And again, we went back to Ian and said, look, this is how we operate. What's your thoughts? This is how we deliver other programs. And he was impressed with that. So we started building the program from, I suppose, the sort of spring of 2018, recruiting a couple of staff to deliver it for us and build some more resources. And then also going back to Ian and saying, look, this is where we think we should deliver it. And, getting that seal of approval as to what it's going to look like, what it should look like. And we went live with it in September 2018. And we were the first, as you say, training providers to do that. So it's good. It's been a great journey. We've got people that have achieved and qualified now. So we're sort of, virtually 2 years down the line. It's been good. It's been a really good experience.
That's been amazing. Not everyone necessarily will be familiar with what the apprenticeship program's about. I know I featured it on an earlier podcast with Ian Holloway as well, who was, on the Trailblazer squad for sort of building the original payroll apprenticeship scheme. For those not familiar with what the program's all about, or even aware that payroll apprentice schemes even exist, can you tell us a little bit more about what the payroll apprenticeship program is and how people can get involved with it? And I guess over the last 12 to 24 months, how it's really grown in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess, first of all, the first thing to say is the new type of apprenticeship, these standards have been designed by leading companies from industry and leading lights in each sector. So the whole new apprenticeship arena is based on, I suppose, real apprenticeships actually, where you've got knowledge and skills, and then the behaviours are built in as well. So it's not like the old NVQs, which were just about sort of theory based and tick boxes. This is much more about we give you the knowledge and the skills to do the job, and then we prove that you can actually do that. So the particular payroll one is great for the sector, because not only is it the broadest qualification that's available for payroll, and what I mean by that is it covers everything from the payroll core, which is all about legislation and contracting and worker types, through to all the technical stuff, so the good old skills of manual calculations from all the different elements. It's got pensions in there, which other qualifications haven't got. We look at the construction industry scheme. We look at RTI and reporting. But moreover, there's a whole section of it that looks at business skills. So it looks about communication and collaboration. It looks about understanding where your company and employer is in the community, in the sector, locally and regionally. So it's a real, broad qualification and helps to develop everybody that's in payroll and equip them for, I suppose, multiple payroll roles, if you like, across, different sectors and different employers. And I think probably one of the interesting things that we were able to bring to that is the flexibility, because we've got a way of designing the program around the individual and around the company. So even if you've got 5 people from the same company doing exactly the same program, we can tailor it around them.
Nice.
And we've also got additionality, so linked to payroll, but wider skills that look at like leadership, quality management, customer loyalty, audit and risk, and all these additionality units we've been able to write into the payroll program to make sure that it develops people for exactly the role that they want it to become.
That's amazing. I didn't even realize that you were able to bespoke them that much. I think leadership is certainly an area we're going to see a lot of payroll professionals undertaking sort of skills courses to improve leadership skills over the next couple of years. I think that's really important. I think what I love as well is, as a recruiter, I see this all the time. Payroll is a career where I think there is a shortage of people coming through the bottom of the funnel. So coming into payroll, choosing payroll as a career choice, and all the opportunities payroll can offer you in a career. As you mentioned just a moment ago, there's so many different roles you can do within payroll now, from analytics to implementation to sales to service delivery to day-to-day payroll administration and so on. And I think there is a shortage still of new people coming into the industry as a choice, or certainly choosing to come into the industry and making that choice early. So presumably the payroll apprenticeship program is a really good way to really build that funnel and encourage more people to say, actually, I'd never considered payroll before, but this is a really good career opportunity for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm kind of smiling because I think everybody that I've ever interviewed to join us to become part of our payroll team, and I would say probably 99% of the people that you speak to say exactly that I fell into payroll. I didn't know what it was. I had no intention of doing that. And I think it is an industry, or part of, I suppose not an industry, but being part of industry that's now gaining more and more recognition. And when we first started advertising to place apprentices, so we had a couple of national companies and a couple of local authorities that asked us towards the end of 2018 to find them some fresh blood, some school leavers to get into the sector. It was a bit difficult, and we had to, I suppose, be a bit clever with the way we recruited and attracted people. But what I can tell you now, fast forward to 2 years down the line, we've placed over 75 new school leavers into payroll, which is great, because realistically,
it's amazing.
Yeah, well, it's like a career that didn't exist, that seems not to exist before. It was like, say, people fell into it from accounts or from admin. So to be able to put adverts out there now and attract youngsters to it, and they're starting their journey in payroll, and because of the team that we've got, we can explain to them about career ladders and the different opportunities and where it can take them in the future. It is exciting times, and it's definitely a change. And to be quite frank, as I alluded to earlier, we say I guess it's our spiritual home. We just feel that it's where we as a business fit now, and we've been able to build this really strong team. help the sector, and I guess to start putting a little bit back as well, really.
Yeah, I love that. And also what I love is it's kind of captured you, right? So we didn't know each other 5 years ago. I think you've always been in training. You've always been in apprentices. You've got a really good track record in helping entrepreneurs and business leaders develop their skills, Mark. But payroll, has, since you've come into this industry, it's hooked you a little bit, hasn't it? And I know you've launched now a brand new business that which you're calling Payroll. I'd love to know more about why payroll's really captured your imagination, and tell us a little bit more about what Payroll's all about.
Okay, yeah, that's great. So I think, you're right. I've been in and around industry and different business for quite some time. And, I remember doing the payroll myself manually and flicking through the tax code books and using all those sorts of things many, many years ago. But I think getting into it now and getting into the sector, there's so many characters out there. There's some real sort of, rock stars that do such a fantastic job that I'm just in awe of. And I think the more we've started to develop our service and the more we've got to know the employers and people in the payroll sector, the more it's engaged us enough that actually we can do a really good job here. And I suppose our slant on bringing in wider skills and additionality has really hooked into what the clients want as well, because I suppose it appeals to that. It's not just payroll. It's much wider than that. It's not just data entry. There's a million things. And particularly the last sort of 4 or 5 months, we've been really busy supporting a lot of our clients with all the changes with furlough and everything else that's gone on. And we wanted to make something that's, I suppose, a bit more strict, if you like, and a line that they can follow. So what we created is Payroll. And what that is, it's the start of a community for the payroll sector. We have updates that are going out monthly. We've got newsletters that are also starting from September as well. And we're intending to run national events on an annual basis, a payroll festival, actually. And the reason we've called it Payroll, because we know the sectors, it is underrepresented and we know it needs value to it. But we've also seen the fun side of it and the characters that are in there. So the payroll side of it, if you like, is more about proving how good the sector is. It's about, sharing good practice. It's about having some fun. It's about making the rest of industry aware how strong we are and, realistically, the lifeblood of industry. And then the payroll side of it, that's the more formal stuff. So this is where we will, impart the knowledge that we've got from changes in legislation, changes in good practice and statutory requirements, etc. So we see it as twofold, really. So, the one side of it's fun and then the other side of it's business. And that's really where the name Payroll came from. And we think also it's kind of one of those names that sticks, once you've, unlike MBKB, which people constantly get wrong and call us MKBB or ACDC or all sorts of stuff. So we figured Payroll, once said, is remembered.
So is there somewhere people can find out more about Payroll? Is that live now? Is that a site people can start to access, or does it go live from September?
No, yes, it is live now. So we've got the web domain payroll.com. That's live. You can also find it through .co.uk and .org, etc. All domains will point to it. And on there, we've put some resources, not just our resources, but HMRC resources and ACAS resources, which will help people. There's links to the update sessions, which are run on our behalf by Helen Hargreaves and Rose Howley. There's an option to join for the newsletter as well, which you can subscribe to. And it also links back to the MBKB training website so that people can have a look at some of the short courses, because I think that's one of the other things that we realised as well. I mean, the apprenticeships, I guess, is what we're mainly known for, but we have also done quite a few short courses and bespoke programs for a lot of our employers, because, our tutors are experts in the field. They're experts in payroll and they've got a vast level of experience and knowledge to pass on. So if an apprenticeship isn't right for you, it might be that it's half a day course that you want writing, or it could just be something we just want to pick up a pensions module. So we've put all those as well within the payroll offering. So it can be apprenticeships, it can be short courses, it could be, I suppose a bespoke consultancy.
Excellent. Well, you actually mentioned two names there that I know very well. You've assembled quite a team of payroll practitioners. You've got mentioned Rose Howley there. You mentioned Helen Hargreaves. Of course, Helen is someone who I've had previously on the show. Tell us a little bit more about your strategy then, because I think over the last couple of years, you've assembled, as you mentioned, a very, very experienced, well-known payroll team, quite a fantastic team. So what are you looking to do longer term?
Okay, yeah, thanks for that. We are lucky. We have got a fantastic team. I mean, I'm a firm believer, and it's the way we operate MBKB, and it's the way we do the training, is that it's about coaching and it's about experience. We don't necessarily want teachers or somebody that's just been in tutoring for 20 years. We want somebody that's fresh out of industry, has got that live experience, and can draw on years of knowledge and experience and actually doing the job practically. So all the tutors that we engage have come out of sector. So we're very fortunate that as well as obviously having Helen and Rose, we've got the former head of training for a software supplier. We've got a payroll manager from an NHS. We've got a payroll manager from local authority. We've got payroll managers from an international company and also SMEs as well. So we've got a vast range of people. And I mean, never more so than now, the payroll sector is constantly changing. So, we need somebody that's, I suppose, a gatekeeper for us, somebody that can make sure that, what we're telling people is bang up to date, and also make sure that that's in a fun and I suppose enjoyable delivery, if you like. And that's really where, Rose and Helen came in. So, obviously they're both very well known in the sector, and they bring to us a level of experience that's just beyond, I think, certainly what we had originally.
Fantastic.
From a to develop payroll point of view, we're just always looking to engage with other partners. We've got I think a very refreshing approach. We do work with other training providers as well. We don't ever see anybody as a threat or a competitor. It's just somebody else that we can learn from. And I think from payroll point of view, it's about getting the right people in. And we've got kind of a unique culture as well within the business. And, when we find somebody that we think is going to help and, develop us and also develop the sector, we're keen to engage them. We're very different, I think. And what I like about both Helen and Rose is that they've got, a lot of experience, and they're both also very strong characters. So, if they disagree with something they say, and if we're not doing something as we ought to, they're very quick to say, right, this is how this needs to change, and we need to get this information out there.
Yeah,
they're also both cut them in half, and they'll bleed payroll, which is great for us and great for the sector.
I'd fully agree. I mean, I know those characters well, but I also know your business well. I have to say, personality. You've mentioned fun a couple of times. It's definitely a fun business. Definitely has loads of personality. Obviously, I've been quite closely connected with your growth as well, which has been great. So I know the people that you've worked with, because as you say, they've been in the sector for a long, long time. But there are some things people might not know about. I don't know whether I should bring them up on the podcast or not. Maybe I'll definitely include a link. But there is some evidence out there of some of the fun that you have. I know you've released some chart hit videos of you guys doing various, I don't know if you'd call it carpool karaoke, but something similar. Tell us a little bit about, the business itself, the chart hits and some of the fun that you guys have down there.
Okay. But yeah, so I guess I've learned quite a long time ago that, we don't think of anything as like work-life balance. We only think of life. And from that, we just want this to be the job, the company, and the relationship with all our team members, that they jump out of bed on a Monday morning, if you like, and they're excited to be there. It's not a job. It should just be something that you get up and enjoy. So on that basis, we've got a pretty relaxed attitude and atmosphere to most of the stuff that we do. And I like to bring fun into each thing. So I suppose there's a couple of links really to the sort of music and the video. More recently, as you're alluding to, we did a bit of a fun parody spoof video of Queen, I Want to Break Free. And that was born out of the fact that we were frustrated that we couldn't do our 4-year anniversary with the team and the awards night that we do every year because of coronavirus. And we wanted to give them something a little bit fun. Now, we've got a range of tutors, some that have recently joined us, as you know, because we have a fantastic relationship with you guys, and really appreciate your help in helping us find new staff. But we've also got people that have been with us a few years. So we wanted to do something that was a bit fun and a bit different. So we came up with the idea of doing a parody video, and we put together, me and the other senior team members, the Queen video. And we actually did that in about 2 days as well, which was kind of quite a feat. Although not a lot else got done during those 2 days, I must say.
It is brilliant.
But yeah.
I'll definitely be putting a link in the episode notes if I'm allowed, so people can take a look at this. If you want to have a bit of fun in payroll and see how much fun these guys are having, it's an absolute hoot. So I'll, if it's okay, I'll put a link to the YouTube video for this, because I think every payroller should see it.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. So yeah, it's all good. So, but yeah, we did that for the team, and then the team did a response video for us as well, which was great. Where they had this strange things that people keep in the fridge was the brief they had behind it. So that's kind of a really cool little video as well, where you've got all our team members swapping, different, or appear to be pulling different things out of the fridge, if you like, and it's really good, that is. So I guess that's one of the strong things that's come out through coronavirus. I think we've done a good job of, I suppose, showing our personality, and it wasn't an intention. We didn't set out at the beginning of it to say, look, let's show everybody how much fun we are. But what we did do as a senior team is, we made a decision that we needed to keep our team engaged during lockdown, but we needed moreover to keep them relaxed and chilled. So we made them a promise very early on that we would, they didn't have to worry about anything financially. We've got plans, and we were confident we can steer the business fully through this. So that's one less stress for them. And there's a few things that we did which made their life a bit easier, and some, I suppose, personal stuff that we did for them as well. But we also wanted to keep them calm. We had coffee and chat mornings, and then we started doing the video. And Katie, who's our one of our operations managers and safeguarding manager, put together sort of a board of comments and things that people had said about each other, and that was like really nice as well. So that kind of turned into a video as well that we put out there. And I think we're just fortunate that we've got this team and we've got this ethos, and it's a great culture. I'm very lucky to have the people around. I think it probably comes from my varied career to date and background, I think, to get to this point. So I've seen a lot of different industries and worked in a lot of different sectors, and I've tried to bring the best bits of each one, I think, to what MBKB is.
That's great. Well, I think you're doing a fantastic job, and it's I think it comes across. I really do. And I think as well, we all know that coronavirus has had a real impact on mental health, people feeling isolated, and therefore engagement and inclusiveness has never been more important. And if you've been able to keep those sentiments right at the forefront of people's minds for the people that work for you, to make them feel engaged, to make them feel like they're part of something, I think that's a really admirable thing to be doing, and a positive thing to be doing, because it's difficult. And I think a lot of people out there have really found it this isolation challenging. And the videos are a great way of just, if you're not part of the video, just watching the videos is a great way just to relieve some of that stress. So I'm looking forward to seeing people's comments when they've seen the link in the episode notes and have a look. But taking it back to training, which is obviously what we're all about, for yourself, what's more important, do you think, for the future skills within payroll? I mean, I've done a few webinars and podcasts about this already. I have my own views on where the industry's going, but I'd love to hear it from a skill training provider. So where do you think the future skills are going to be within payroll? Are they going to be soft skills? Are they going to be technical skills? Are they going to be something different? What's your take?
Yeah, I think there's a combination of things. I think the technical skills side of it it's important that we maintain that. With the ever changes in technology and the more developments, I suppose, of AI, etc., we need to make sure that we don't lose the base technical skills, the ability to actually work a wage out manually. But for the actual individual and how their role is going to change, it's going to become broader, and the softer skills that they need in terms of leadership are definitely going to become key. We've started to write some new programs now around resilience training as well, because the world gets faster by the day, by the week, and the key really is for people to be able to act quickly. And we know there's nothing more emotive than money. And one of the things that we often say to people is, we know that nobody ever picks the phone up to a payroller and goes, "Hey, thanks for paying me, good job." Really appreciate it. Have a good weekend.
Sure.
They don't tend to get those phone calls. It's always the other way around. Why have you missed my expenses? Or, there's an error on here, or why haven't you paid me? And so I think from our point of view, the resilience side of things is key. And that's what we're focusing on. But also the leadership skills and the communication. Because very often in a lot of employers, we see payroll departments and they're very insular. And that's not always a good thing. And that's partly responsible for why I think the payroll sector feels that, do we fit in HR? Do we fit in finance? You don't fit in either. You are your own thing, and you should be your own thing. So if we can impart these, communication skills, confidence skills, leadership, and those sorts of things, then it starts to give, a much stronger, I suppose, career path for future development for payrollers, because it's like, actually, we can do this and we can do that. I think if anything, that it's more likely that payroll would take over some of the HR side of things rather than, the other way around.
Sure. It's quite an interesting take. I agree as well. Funnily enough, only this morning, I'm on an HR senior leaders sort of WhatsApp group. And a good friend of mine, again, I've had on the podcast before on the HR channel, which is someone called Judith Germain, who runs the Maverick Paradox Leadership Training. And she said that she's been delivering more resilience training than ever at the minute to help stop employees from becoming burnt out during this crisis. Because, during COVID-19, people working from home, particularly in payroll, it's become much harder to put your laptops down and actually stop working, because you're at home. There isn't a finishing bell like you sometimes get at work, and you end up being on your laptop till late in the evening, and it's very easy to get burnt out. And I think resilience that you mentioned there is a really important training requirement for individuals going forward. Leadership, definitely, it's something that I've been banging the drum for. I think there's a requirement within the payroll industry at the minute to really develop those skills. And communication is interesting. As we try and raise the profile of payroll, as we do get, as we do increase its valued perception from other senior stakeholders, those stakeholder engagement skills, those stakeholder management skills, which was obviously all born within communication, are going to be really, really important. And I think you've identified three critical skills there that payroll people should be looking to really develop their own skills base in. I think that's resilience, communication, and I absolutely agree, and leadership skills. So you mentioned earlier on, Mark, sometimes we'll get your name wrong. Let's say MKBK or MBKB. What is MBKB? I'm making a guess here. Like, you've never told me, and I've worked with you for years. I've always made the assumption it's Mark Bremner, and I'm assuming there are two other initials in there. But why is MBKB? What is MBKB? Let's get that off the table, and maybe everyone will always remember what it is from this point forward.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So it is quite simply, it's Mark Bremner, Kathy Bremner, and the ironic thing is, it was never a name that we intended to keep very long. So to I suppose give you a bit of background. I've been in training previously. I had another training company. And I had basically sold that out to a larger training provider that took us out and had a non-compete for a few years. But I missed the training sector and I wanted to get back into it. And in order to do that, government rules are that you have to have a trading company. Now, MBKB Limited was myself and my wife as business consultancy. And it was, I suppose, a relatively small business on the side, but it ticked the right boxes to start the process to get back into training, as in, it's a limited company, it's traded for years, it's got a strong balance sheet, etc. So it was the vehicle that we used to get on the register of apprenticeship training providers and to get back into training. And it was never our intention to keep the name. We were going to just change it, sort of as I suppose more a funky trading. My previous business was called Platinum Training, and I remember early days of MBKB, one of the local authorities that we work with said, Platinum Training, it just, it clicks, it just rolls. MBKB doesn't work. And I'm like, no, I know. And we are going to change it. But here we are, 4 years later. And we just haven't got it. And it's getting out there now.
Yeah.
I think. So, quite a few people now, so probably not a good thing.
But the way to remember it then is Mark Bremner, Kathy Bremner, MBKB.
Kathy Bremner.
There you go.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But it's more on the subject then of yourself and Kathy. Let's find out a little bit more about you. Question one: which individual has influenced your career the most?
Oh, well, that's a tough. Is it a tough? Do you know what? My first response, as you just heard, was that's a tough one. But then actually, no, I don't. You know what? Thinking about it, I don't think it is. I would say my father, actually. because he was a businessman, and he was in the building trade. Actually, he started off as a carpenter and site manager, and then had his own company and then developer and stuff. And what I always admired about him was his take on things and his patience. And he taught me a hell of a lot of stuff that I still use today and resonates today. And I'll talk about a few of those in a moment. But he always had a can-do attitude, and he always chose to see the best in everybody, irrespective of the situation. And it's one of the things that, I'm not going to lie, it took me years to become that, to be relaxed. And I think there's a saying, I'm sure it's David Bowie actually, that, age allows you to become the person you should have always been.
Nice.
Because you get that experience. And I think with my dad, he was always able to remove the emotion from a situation, which allowed him to act, objectively and honestly. And so, it has to be him, I think, because, no matter what I did, I remember saying, right, we're going to start a day nursery. And he's like, what? Why are you doing that? I said, well, yeah, we are, and I set up a record company. Okay. Why? Well, because of X, Y, and Z. Okay, go for it, and he was always very supportive and strong, I think, and focused. There's a few. I remember I worked for him. He had a building company, and I worked for him for a short period as a contracts manager. So I was young. I was like early 20s, I don't know, maybe 22, 23, and I was a qualified quantity surveyor actually by that. Although he did do me down on one thing, and I'll come back to that in a moment, but. So I was 22, 23 working on the site, and I remember saying to him, look, these guys, they're just not doing a lot. It's like 2:30. They're supposed to work till 4. They're not doing a lot. And he said, I'm going to tell you something now. He said, no man should be judged by 9 to 5. And he said, the guys turn up every day. He said, now if I can get, 5 hours solid work from them till 1 o'clock till lunch, that is enough for me. And they'll do a few bits in the afternoon. That's fine. But I know that their productivity strength is in the morning, not in the afternoon, particularly in the summer, partly because of the heat, etc. And he said, but you shouldn't judge people by that. He said some people turn up and do nothing, others will do 10 hours work in 4 hours. And he said you judge them on what you think they should achieve and what they think they can achieve, and that's how it should be. And I think that was a massive life lesson for me. And I did a training session with my team January, ironically, of this year, where we said, look, don't look at yourself or look at your diary and think, right, I've got another 6 hours. Set the task of what you want to achieve that day. And if you're only halfway through it at the end of the day, but you've given it your best, that's fine, because you just say to yourself, it's okay, I've done enough, I've done the best I can, and just come back to it the next day. And, there's no point in sitting staring at a computer if you're not motivated to do something because A, it's too hot outside, or B, you've got a cold, or there's a distraction. You should just do, what you can do that day. And it might be that you'll put a couple of hours in on a Sunday or a night because you'll feel more motivated. And that's fine. That relaxed attitude to, work-life balance it came from him, really. And I've tried to install that in every company that I've had throughout the years. So yeah, it has to be my dad, I think.
No, I think that's a great example, and I probably need to take some of that tonic myself, I think. But no, what a brilliant response. So in terms of resources, Mark, have there been any that really helped you on your career journey? Maybe a piece of music, a book, a training course, a parable, whatever it might be. What resources have really helped you on your journey?
I think there's a lot of things. I've been on a very varied journey. I've dabbled in different sectors and different industries with different businesses, but if I had to put I would name two people, I think. One, there's an individual, there's a guy that does some mentoring with me, and he also delivers some stuff for us as well, Joe Trodden. He's a fantastic coach. He's really good. And from a book point of view, I would say Brené Brown. She's my favorite author. I think Rising Strong is an incredible book. And there's a whole chapter in there about accepting people for, they've done the best they can, whether you agree with it or not, whether it's ended up with you, having a train wreck of a car because they've cut you up, or, I don't know, I can't think of other examples, but there's lots of things in there. So I guess those two sort of recently spring to mind.
Excellent. I'll put a link. I'll try and find the book and put a link to it so if people want to access it themselves. Rising Strong. I'll put a link to the Amazon feed and people can check it out themselves. Always up for a good book myself, so I'll probably check it out myself as well. So if you could invite 3 people to a dinner party, Mark, who would they be and why? And these can be dead or alive.
Yeah, I'd start with my father. So sadly, he's not with us anymore. So that was why that would be number one, I think.
Sure.
The second one would be John Lennon, because
nice.
He's an idol of mine. I really admired John Lennon. I know he was a little bit abrasive, a little bit Marmite, I guess, but I just liked what he stood for, and I think he got a good take on life. Third one, I'm going to say my wife, because if I don't, she will kill me, and she is the KB of MBKB.
And she would want to miss out on meeting John Lennon, right? So that'd be important. Fantastic. All right, last question, and we're going to jump back into the podcast questions. I want to find out in part 2 a lot more about how we can get more youngsters into payroll and how the role and requirements of payroll have developed. So we'll stay tuned for that. Before we do, last question in this section, Mark. If you had any superpower, what would it be and why?
I don't know what superpower would I have. I'm gonna go with time travel.
Okay. Any reason?
Yeah, because I think I'm sounding a bit philosophical now, but we often get hung up on things that in the heat of the moment sound and seem like a big drama, and they're generally not, and that's one of the things, that's a human nature trait. I think we're too quick to jump to stuff. So I guess a time travel would allow me to show people that, look, it will be okay. So you don't need to get stressed about it at the moment, because these things will resolve themselves, or actually it really doesn't mean that much in a great deal of things.
No, excellent. That's a great example. Great one to choose. Fantastic. Well, listen, we're going to jump to a quick advert break. When we come back, we're going to find out a lot more about the youngsters into payroll, so stay tuned.
Have you ever asked yourself, how can I recruit payroll staff effectively? Please don't give up on your recruitment project just yet. Here at JGA Payroll Recruitment, we appreciate the difficulties associated with attracting, recruiting, and retaining top payroll talent. We also understand just how costly a poor payroll hire can be. JGA Recruitment are a niche payroll recruitment agency who will partner with you to resource payroll candidates who will improve both the accuracy and efficiency of your payroll department. Contact us today on 01727 800 377 or visit jgarecruitment.com to find out more.
So, Mark, here's a question. We've kind of touched upon it already. You mentioned I think the number you gave was 75 school leavers you've managed to get into payroll now, which is a fantastic result. How can the industry as a whole now, how can we get more youngsters into payroll?
Okay. I think it would be good for, some of these large employers to start advertising for payroll apprentices themselves, or working with you, working with us to help them fill those vacancies. One of the most common things that we hear, we get, even yesterday, actually, I had a conversation. I won't name the employer, but I had a conversation with the employer, and they're like, we didn't even know there was a payroll apprenticeship. And to be honest, we handle our levy pot every day, but we don't know where it goes or how it's spent. And I think there's a lack of understanding or awareness, I guess, probably not understanding, a lack of awareness in a lot of large national employers about the opportunity of the apprenticeship. And I think they're worried that, it's going to take people too long to become effective. So it's the quick fix, and the short-term thinking is one of the biggest issues, I think. They don't seem particularly good at succession planning in payroll. And I think that's one of the key things that we would say, look, you can take on an apprentice. We can help you find them. There's no, there's no downside to that, because when you train them and develop them, they'll become a payroll expert in your business. So it can be completely tailored. And if you're saying to us, well, they're not going to deal with pensions, so they don't need to worry about that, we'll say, right, well, we can put pensions towards the end of the program. What do you need them to do? Well, I need data entry to start with. Okay, well, we'll focus on that. Then we'll start with systems and processes and then move on to the manual stuff later. So I guess it's about that joined up approach, for GJA and us to get out there and promote this as an alternative, rather than panic backfilling gaps? Because that seems to be what happens a lot. I don't know if you'd agree with that.
Yeah, no, I would. And then people might think, oh, why would Nick want to promote something that ultimately means they're not going to use his agency to find the staff? The reality is there's room. There's definitely room for both sides. Sometimes some clients are going to need experienced talent to come in, but obviously we also need that the talent to come in at the bottom of the funnel from the youngsters through these apprenticeship schemes to help develop and move their careers later. So, there is a gap at the minute. There aren't enough youngsters coming into payroll. I think the apprenticeship program is an excellent way to get youngsters into payroll and to get them trained effectively. But also, what a lot of companies don't realize is there's some good financial incentives for doing this as well. Not only are you saving on potential recruitment fees, at the bottom end of the scale here in terms of the skill base, but actually the government levies mean that you even get paid to take these people through the program. So, it can also be a win-win that way if you put the two together. And as you mentioned, you get someone in who actually learns your payroll, your function. And we know every single payroll department is unique to the next. It doesn't matter if you use the same system, doesn't matter if you've got the same number of employees on that payroll. Even if the frequency is the same, it doesn't matter. The payroll will be different in every single business you go into. So to have someone who's trained specifically on your payroll and the way that you do things, and to have that bespoke from an apprenticeship level as a school leaver, and as an individual who is, if you are that school leaver, to feel that invested in by your employer, I think is a real win-win for both company and the individual concerned, and it gives them a really good platform to develop what we all believe, if you're listening to this podcast, is a really fruitful and exciting career in the industry right now. But you're an entrepreneur, Mark. So, I mean, if I've mentioned a little bit there about the youngsters side of things, what advice would you be giving to the youngsters that are entering the payroll industry if they were unsure, if someone approached them and said, actually, would you consider a payroll apprenticeship scheme? What advice are you giving?
Okay, so we're saying to them, look, first of all, the payroll apprenticeship and the payroll sector will give you a skill set that you can use across any industry and across any role. Because, one of the examples that I personally give when I'm speaking to people is, look, if you look at the Fortune 500 companies, the biggest companies in the world, they're often run by CEOs. They're always run by CEOs, but those CEOs are often accountants, right? Which are people who've got a financial grip and a good, strong financial understanding.
Yeah.
You can get that understanding from starting payroll because that's all about the numbers. And ultimately, you're in charge of the most important asset that any business has. So there's a route and a correlation from a financial based apprenticeship, which this is, into senior management. But moreover, there's a route into managing a payroll team. There's a route into, training of payroll. And because of also the wider skills that we offer as well, it's a much broader base and skill set that will enable you to go into HR if you wanted to go that route after and go into finance. So you should start at this point and know that you've got a plethora of options going forward. And, that's been quite popular. I guess it comes back to just the way I am, like I always refer to like the world of why, because that's where I live, which is why is things done this way? Why does that happen? Why can that not be changed? And, I always say to everybody I speak to, look, the options are limitless. You are only stuck by what you can see and imagine, whether you think you can or can't, you're correct. And from a business point of view and a youngster point of view, I'm 50 and don't really know exactly what I want to do, in all honesty. So we can't expect these 17, 18-year-olds to know that. But what we're saying to them, look, this is a career that as an absolute minimum will set you up for life. It's as simple as that. It's a respected career. It's a valuable career, and it's very enjoyable and varying. But moreover, it can be the stepping stone into other stuff.
Yeah.
And that's how we're going to sell it.
I really like that. And you won't know this, Mark, but actually only yesterday I recorded a podcast. I don't know which one's going to be released in order, but with Paul Gibbons, who's the COO at Pay Dashboard. Now he's chief operating officer there, but came from a payroll background. And he's you mentioned where people come from this financial understanding background to become CEO. Well, there's an individual I spoke to just yesterday who's COO of a very successful company that's growing very quickly, and he's been able to find his role in that company from his payroll background and from the expertise he had at payroll administrator through to payroll management level. And there are lots and lots more cases that we're finding now on a regular basis of people that are really getting the top echelons of business management through payroll as their starting point. And I think hopefully people listening to this may have caught my previous episode with Steve Sarowitz, who is a payroll billionaire. And I mentioned that because it just shows that anything is possible in this industry. You can take it as far as you want, and billionaires are made. So, I think that's, if nothing else, if you're speaking to school leavers, and I do talks at schools trying to promote payroll as a career choice. I've done a talk just before lockdown over at St Albans Boys School about this for their GCSE school leavers program. And actually just me mentioning Steve Sarowitz and what he's achieved did open a few eyes, because I don't think people realise just how far you can go in payroll. And it's not just about payroll management, which is a fantastic role in itself, but also you can go into sales, implementation, you can go into analytics now, which is growing all the time, strategic management, board, and it's going to be a lot more board level based as hopefully as technology improves and advances. So since you've been doing the apprenticeship programs yourself and the training programs you've been doing, Mark, specifically for the payroll industry, where have you seen the biggest changes in terms of the requirements that your clients are asking for, or the requirements put upon the skills needed right now for payroll professionals? Obviously, when you started this, it would have been relatively new and you may have started at a technical level. But right now, what are the key, issues that you have to overcome, or the key training requirements that clients are coming to you for?
I think, right at the moment, I guess it's all about the coronavirus. So, the furlough, the support for that, and, the job retention scheme. So, and it's mostly the stuff that's akin to that. I think, in all honesty, in the last sort of 3 or 4 months, what we have seen with apprentices is, which has been good, I suppose, a silver lining to the coronavirus, is that they want to learn more about it. And because of everything that's happened, obviously payroll has come to the fore in terms of exposure and discussions, and that's been good. So we've seen, from a youngster's point of view, a sudden willingness to look at the legislation side of things, which is great because it's a bit of a dry subject and not always the best. But from an existing payroll, I guess it has been about, well, I don't guess, I know for a fact it has been about the furlough and the support that we can offer around that. What we've tried to do now and what we're developing is some support packages for the employers around redundancy, and also for those that have been made redundant. So we're offering them some of our sessions that look at sort of work-life balance, look at how you can change your career, how you can develop. So on the one hand, we're working with the employers and saying to them that this is how you can effectively process redundancy if that's what you've got to take. But on the flip side of that, we're also offering support packages that you can promote to the people that you've had to make redundant, so you can help them and try and get them further careers or new careers, and we can work on that as well. I think that's probably certainly the last couple of months where we've been at. I guess prior to that, a lot of systems and processes changes that have come in. We've looking at constantly developing the work that we do around that. And there is a big buzz around the AI stuff. So we're currently developing some resources that are going to sort of take part, I suppose, to help that. We've also developed our own team leader program, which is the first one that's specifically written for payroll. And that sits nicely because I know Ian Holloway's head of the Trailblazer Group for a level 5 apprenticeship standard, which is due out towards the end of this year, which is this payroll assistant manager. So the team leader one we've sort of developed fits in between that, if you like. So it's in between sort of payroll administrator, nice, which is the core of the job, and then the management one. So there is a lot going on. It's a constantly changing world. I mean, which is one of the reasons why I love it so much, because it does keep changing. I mean, we do a lot of work with leadership skills and leadership training, and, those are very generic, and I suppose we develop new theories and new practices and we're working with new companies, but it's not quite as exciting and changing as payroll.
Nice. No, it's good. It's good. I can understand why COVID-19 is having a big impact, but it's nice to hear some of the other courses and good to mention as well, as you said, the Trailblazer squad that Ian Holloway is involved in for the apprenticeship level 5, which is due for release. It's nice to know you're doing a training course that sits in between the two, because I think that's a training requirement that that people are looking for right now, and certainly it's a good opportunity for payroll professionals to, if you don't need the apprenticeship course, but you still want some upskilling on the training side because you want to take your career to the next level, then as you mentioned, you do a lot of those short courses that could be a good option for those individuals. So last question before we open the vault, Mark. It's a big one. You can go anywhere you like with this, but what's your prediction? And I say anywhere you like in terms of how far in the future you want to go, but what's your prediction for the future of payroll?
Yeah, good. So that's it. I mean, that's a tough question, I think, because there's so much things going on. But I would fast forward to probably the year 2025, and at that point, payroll will be the main financial core of any business. And I think once the government bring in, the IR35 and all that changes, it's going to revolutionise certainly a lot of how things are done in the building sector, construction industry, and quite a few other, I suppose, music industry, assuming we can ever get that back going. But where everybody's been subcontracting associate members of staff, that's all going to change, and the payroll team are going to be the ones that pick up the slack of that and bring things in house. So I think, I'd like to see the directors of finance and directors of HR knocking on the directors of payroll's door for advice and guidance, and coming to them to steer the business rather than the other way around.
I think that's quite a nice prediction. There you go. So 2025 then is when the time we're going to see the HRDs and the FDs knocking on the payroll director doors for advice. I think that's a big prediction. It's a positive prediction, and I don't see why that can't come true. So fantastic. Well, listen, we're going to open the vault.
Entering the vault.
One piece of advice, Mark, you would give to someone working in payroll right now.
Okay, one piece of advice. What advice would I give to somebody working in payroll at the moment? That would be to be focused, to make sure you've got everything that's, all the information you need to hand so you can accurately do the job, but moreover, to be patient and calm, because I think it is an industry that can be stressed and can be pressured, and we allow ourselves for that to happen by external influences. So always take a breath, walk away from the desk, grab a coffee, chill, and then go back to it, because it will be okay in the end.
Excellent. Fantastic. Question 2, if you had the power of hindsight, what's the one career decision you would change?
Well, do you know what? That kind of links nicely to something I mentioned about my father. So This is, I guess, it's a little known fact about me. So back when I was at school, which was a long, long time ago, so 1984, I wrote a program. I used to be into computer programming. So for my O-level, as it was in those days, I wrote a database and created a system to log attendance and exam results for students at my school, which helped me ace my O-level and get that. And at those, I'm talking then, there was no Windows then. There wasn't any more for the younger people that may or may not be listening. There wasn't any, Microsoft wasn't in existence, or certainly wasn't heard of, I guess, around here. So I wrote this program, and they rolled it out and used it actually across quite a few schools in my local borough. And when I left school, I was deciding what to do. And famously, in our house, my father said to me, nobody's ever going to make any money sitting in front of one of those things all day long, which was obviously completely an inaccurate prediction. And the one thing that I used to kind of remind him of often. So I didn't, to be quite frank as well, Nick, I guess it's the entrepreneurial or the restless spirit in me. I don't like sitting still, and I like to constantly move and develop things. And I'd done a lot. I'd spent 2 or 3 years writing different programs and stuff, and I was a little bit bored of it as well, in all honesty. So I was like, I don't really want to go into that. But looking back, that kind of might have been a mistake.
Could have been the future Facebook, the early beginnings of one of the major ones we see now. We'll never know, but either way, it's a good story. If you had the power of foresight and could change the entire payroll industry with one action or improvement, what would that action or improvement be?
Well, what I would do is set boundaries for government updates and changes to policy. So there's a finite period of like 1 month a year where they can change stuff and update it, and then give them a period of 2 weeks where they could check it. And so once it actually goes out, it's not only accurate, but they're going to stick with it for the period of the next 11 months so that we're not constantly changing and backpedaling.
Fantastic. Well, listen, Mark, it's been an excellent podcast. We've brought it right back full circle as well, which is brilliant. Obviously, if you want to find out more about yourself, where can they find you online? I'm going to put links in the episode notes to the payrollrocks.com website you mentioned earlier. Where else can they find out about your services?
Okay. So, mbkb.co.uk. That will take them straight to the business. And, we are always looking to work with other people, develop. And that's not a sales pitch. I'm always interested in talking to people from the payroll sector, and if you might or may not want to work with us, which is absolutely fine, but you might have some advice for us on about things that we should add or change, or things that, you think would improve the sector. Love to hear from you. So Mark Bremner on LinkedIn, connect with me. That's absolutely fine. And be great to talk to you all.
Excellent. Well, I'll make sure links to Mark's LinkedIn profile is available in the episode notes, along with mbkb.com and the payrollrocks.com website as well. And I can happily vouch for the fact that Mark was very open to collaborative calls. That's how our relationship started right at the start of this a couple of years ago. So do reach out to him if you have any ideas or you want to run anything by him. Definitely give him a call, and I'll make sure that his contact details are here so you can do that straight away. Of course, if you are a payroll leader and you're listening to this podcast and you've got a payroll related vacancy that you want some specialist support with, do give me a call. I'd love to help you and show what a good payroll recruitment experience can feel like. My details will also be in the episode notes. You can reach me at nick@jjarecruitment.com or give me a call 01727 800 377. Thanks for listening, folks. I look forward to bringing you the next episode of the Payroll Podcast real soon. Look after yourselves and each other. It's been a really enjoyable 59 minutes of conversation here, all about MBKB Group and, of course, the apprenticeship scheme. And I can't wait to bring you more great payroll content real soon. Take care.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Payroll Podcast with Nick Day of JGA Recruitment. If you need help with a current payroll vacancy, then please get in touch with Nick and his team. All contact details can be found in the episode notes. In the meantime, to make sure you never miss a future episode, please subscribe to the show through any of your favourite podcast channels. Till next time.